Bet Chapek wants to pay her in Disney dollars.
Renegade Online.
Oh, man. All right. Well, here we go. Been away for a little while. It's been a busy week, folks. I've had a number of videos that I've wanted to get out. Some of them kind of touch a little bit on this one. And I'm trying to get these cut over the weekend, but it is busy right now. So it's been over a week, almost a week or over a week since I put out the last video. So thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being here. So we're going to cover this story today. So this broke yesterday evening, I believe. And wow, what a story. So yeah, about 7 o'clock last night, my time. And yep, ScarJo looks like she's walking away with some money. So we covered this story earlier in the year when this broke, not long after Black Widow dropped in theaters, and had a decent performance when you factored in the Disney Plus Premier Access revenues, which, as we discussed and I detailed how this works in another video just a few videos ago, that Premier Access money totaling about $125 million globally on Disney Premier Access for Black Widow. Because it was a concurrent primary release, kind of factored it into the box office numbers, kind of puts Black Widow at a box office equivalent yield of about $550 to $600 million in that range. So not a bad outing for a Marvel picture, especially one for a character that was dead in a movie that should have come out probably 4 or 5 years ago. But that's neither here nor there. So what that lawsuit was about was exactly what we just discussed, was the Disney Plus Premier Access revenues that stole money from the box office, which you could make a reasonable argument, obviously, that was indeed the case, and ScarJo's contract had a back end on it, as many A-list celebrities, directors, producers, so on and so forth, will have back in box office deals based on performance at the box office. Okay, to where they get paid bonuses on the back end. Well, Scarlett didn't feel like she was going to get her just due when it came to those back end bonuses because of the box office performance without Disney Plus Premier Access, and wanted a piece of that Premier Access money for that reason, which again, I can understand. Of course, Scarlett and her attorneys said that her contract said that she was entitled to that, and of course, Disney, Bob Chapek, that whole side of things said that she wasn't, that they had fulfilled the contract obligations that she was due. So where do we meet? We meet in the middle. We meet in court. We get this article from Deadline last night, and let's go through some of this, shall we? So updated with more details just days after the first court hearing in Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow Profits Megabyte lawsuit on Disney was pushed back to March 2022, the Oscar nominee and House of Mouse have made peace, and it was pricey for the latter. No joke. Disney just did not want this to drag out. They didn't want to be dealing with this for the next 5, 6, 7 months. And I think probably long run, I think Disney has made the wise decision to go ahead, get this off the table, move forward. We don't know exactly what the terms of this settlement were. However, we do have some rumored, reported values of it. Of course, we don't have any other details on what some of the other provisions may have been. So, quote, "I'm happy to have resolved our differences with Disney," said Scarlett in a statement released Thursday. "I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together over the years, and I have greatly enjoyed my creative relationship with the team. I look forward to continuing our collaboration in years to come." And, I'm very pleased that we've been able to come to a mutual agreement with ScarJo regarding Black Widow, said Alan Bergman, chairman of Disney Studio Content. Now, Alan Bergman is one of the senior executives, and I found it noteworthy that it was Alan Bergman in this article, or in the public statement, that made it to this article and to other places like Variety and Hollywood Reporter and things like that, that it was Alan Bergman and not Bob Chapek. I think at this point, Chapek has said all he's going to say about this, in terms of we felt like we did our job and we lived up to our end of the contract. This is now beneath him, and he's moving on. He's looking past this. Again, this is a guy running a $250 billion, based on market capitalization, $250 billion empire. And ScarJo is one person. She's one cog in a very, very humongous wheel. So I don't see Chapek lingering on this issue very long, especially after a newfound relationship, apparently, with Ari Emanuel from Endeavor Talent Agency, and we covered that story last week. Go check that video out. And then, of course, there's also some big CAA news that happened earlier this week. We're going to do a video on that one, too. Trust me, like I said, too busy to get to them all, but I wanted to hit this while it was fresh. So, as is always almost the case in cases like this, neither side gave any indication of how much. However, when all is said and done, the deal will run to more than $40 million. $40 million, sources tell me, the author of this piece in Deadline. Accordingly, the funds will not be paid by Disney in a single lump sum if you pick up the creative accounting I'm putting down. Well, there you go. In case you forgot, Black Widow came out for a premium, blah, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it goes into the story about, here we go, Bryan Lourd. I can't say his name even today. Disney incurred the wrath of Bryan Lourd of CAA, and I think that was the big thing that was such a surprise, and it's been discussed by friends of mine here on YouTube, people like Cameron Pasha, people like Script Doctor, that, they were, just as I was, very surprised that Bryan Lourd would allow this lawsuit to happen. This probably would never have happened with Bob Iger, but they don't really like Bob Chapek too much because he's not the Hollywood animal that Bob Iger was. Chapek doesn't kiss their butts like Iger used to, and I think that's part of this. They don't like that. And again, relevant to the lawsuit, doesn't matter if the lawsuit bore merit or not on ScarJo's part. If Disney was right or wrong, if ScarJo was right or wrong, they just, Chapek's not interested in kissing these people's butts like they're used to from a former Disney CEO and chairman, but that's neither here nor there. So this is where we're at this point, $40 million. And if you understand how lawsuit settlements work, this is not terribly uncommon. When you hear about especially these mega settlements, $100 million or $5 million or $10 billion lawsuit and blah, blah. When these things pay out, they're always paid out over time. This is not uncommon. They're usually paid out in a form of a settlement annuity or something like that, where the party that's responsible for paying is going to put a lump sum that's less than the value of the actual settlement into an annuity to pay out over the course of 10 or 20 years that will eventually pay out that, in this case, $40 million. So it might only cost Disney $30 million to put into something like that will eventually pay out 40 time value of money, so on and so forth. Very common in the legal practice to see something like that, especially for larger settlements. That being said, let's talk about some other provisions that might be in this settlement. So the continued comment from Alan Bergman, this is going to give us some idea of what else was in this settlement package, perhaps, when he said, "We appreciate her contributions, Scarlett's, to the MCU, and we look forward to working together on a number of upcoming projects, including Disney's Tower of Terror." Well, there you go. I'm sure part of this settlement going forward is to have Scarlett's continued cooperation with Disney and still being involved in future projects that they had either eyeballed her for, considered her for, in other words, or projects that they may want her for going forward. They could try to bring her back in another MCU movie at some point, although I kind of hope not. But that's the kind of thing I think they're thinking of inside this $40 million package. There may be $20 million in cash, for example. There may be another $20-25 million in future deals that they're going to guarantee her, guaranteed money to be in Tower of Terror, or guaranteed money to be in another project. That's very, very possible, to where, again, because if one side was saying, I'm right on this contract, that being Disney, and the other side, Scarlett, saying, I'm right on this contract, when you get to a settlement, you generally are going to decide to meet somewhere in the middle. She wanted $50 million. They gave her 40, but of course that's going to come with some strings attached to it to let's just walk away and get this over with. I think this was a good move by Disney to get this done. I think this was a good move by ScarJo to get this done. I don't know if this is going to help in the short term the relationship, improve the relationship between people like Iger and Bryan Lourd. Between Chapek and Bryan Lourd. I'm sure Chapek's still a little sour at this. I think if you're a CAA talent client right now, you're probably wondering if you're going to have much of a chance to get that next job at Disney, at a Disney picture movie production, TV, Disney Plus, whatever they put together. Because right now, CAA is probably a dirty word at Disney in the executive suites. So we'll see what happens. We're going to stay tuned on this. This is something fascinating, but I'm glad it's been settled. And again, this is in addition to the $20 million that ScarJo got up front for this film. So she's done pretty well. And again, of course, this settlement, let's say it's $40 million in cash. 30% of this, 25% of this is going right to her legal team of Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. No, not really. That's not their name. But probably about 25% of this is going to her legal team. Another 5 to 10% of this at least is going to CAA, to Bryan Lourd, which is why he gets involved in these suits anyway. I mean, it's his client, so he's owed part of this. And then, of course, Scarlett's going to pay taxes somewhere to the tune of about half of it, especially living in California. So she might actually walk out of there out of $40 million in cash. She might actually come home, money in the bank, with around 10, maybe 15 after all that, if even that much. So we'll see how this pars down. We'll keep an eye on it. And we are going to get back to the story about CAA picking up a merger this week with ICM competitor. I'm going to try to do that video later today. Maybe get it out over the weekend. Maybe hold it till Monday. We'll see. But until next time, appreciate y'all being here. And please do leave a comment below. Hit that like button, that notification bell. Please subscribe. And as always, take care.